Morning. I would like to call to order the Rutherford County Regional Planning Commission for November the 12th, 2024. If you'll please stand, we're going to have the prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we're so thankful for this beautiful morning that you've given us. Father, may we always remember that the things that we have here and enjoy come from you. Father, we ask that you give us the ability and the wisdom to work on the issues of Rutherford County as we go through those this morning. We ask that you guide us, you direct us in what we should be doing. Father, we're thankful for this county. We're so thankful for the things that we have here. And may we, as the representatives of planning, plan for the future, for future generations. Watch over us, protect us, and guide us. We offer this prayer in the Son's holy name. Amen. Thank you. You may be seated. Now have our roll call, determination of quorum. Madam Secretary.
Jim Averwater. Here. Jeff Phillips. Right. Mike Cush. Right. Lee Bogle. Here. Charlotte P. Here. Trey Gooch.
Here. Chip
Pinion. Marvin Whitworth.
Here.
Jim Thompson. Here. Michael Shirley.
Here.
Pettis Reed.
Here.
We have a quorum.
We do have a quorum. We now need to approve our minutes, and I'll call on our Vice Chairman, Lee Bogle. And there are no minutes, I don't think, this morning. So we'll move right into our next item, which is our public comment period. Do we have any comments?
No, sir. Nobody signed up.
No one has signed up for public comments. Items withdrawn or deferred?
Yes, sir. Under submitted for site plan approval, that'd be B. The first three site plans, True Gospel, Hunter Brothers, and Gumroad Convenience Centers, all three of those have been removed from the agenda. Is there anybody here under final plats for the Youssef Sharin property plat in the audience? I don't see anybody. We are probably going to need to pull that one off the agenda too. They were still waiting on a fire hydrant determination. That request had just been made last week, and as of right now, they don't have that information, so we need to pull that one off as well.
All right, sir. Thank you. Well, we'll move right into our new business, going into item 7. A, submitted for final plat approval, going to number 2 there, Richmond's Retreat, Section 5, 24-2085, 30 lots on 11.7 acres, Zone RM, previously approved, a PRD, located along Richmond's Retreat Boulevard off Chevelville Pike, US 231. KW Group, LLC are the applicants. Mr. DeMasi.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Good morning again, everybody. As you stated, this plat is the first under consideration today. This preliminary plan, or the plat really for this development, was approved by the Plan Commission back in March of 2018. This plat does appear to be consistent with this plan. This property is actually zoned residential medium density, but it's controlled by a pre-existing planned residential development that was approved under the older zoning regulations that we had. The lots are pretty much a minimum of 10,000 square feet and up. Most of our comments have been addressed. It looks like that they still need to make sure that the bridge wing walls have the right-of-way extended out around them and have to be inside the right-of-way for maintenance work and those kind of things. But beyond that, this plat appears to be in good order. We'd be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, any questions, comments?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
You said this was approved in 2018 and...
For this section, correct.
What are the changes? You said they meet the requirements from that time, but what changes?
Well, the lots themselves were about 10 to 12,000 square foot in size as opposed to 15,000 under the original plan development that was approved prior to the new regulations taking effect. Also, this was the last subdivision that was approved that had the step tanks kind of parallel to the road as opposed to perpendicular. After that subdivision, with further conversations with CUD, that's not something that we would allow or entertain anymore. So those are the big, their setback for the front's like 25 feet, if I remember right. That was one of the big changes, but we realized how problematic that was. So after this subdivision is completed, that's going to be pretty much the end of that.
Anyone else?
I'll make a motion to approve, subject to all staff comments.
Motion to approve. Do we have a second? Second, Commissioner Everwater. Further comment? All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, it has been approved. Moving to item 3, Creeksbend, Section 1, Phase 9, 24-2088, 21 lots on 9.9 acres, zoned RM, located along Blue Creek Circle. Silver Hill Partners, LLC, and John T. Holloway are the applicants. Mr. DeMasi.
Yes, thank you, sir. The preliminary plat for this development was approved by the Planning Commission back in July of 2006. Again, this plat does appear to be consistent with that plan. Most of the previous sections of this development were required to have residential sprinkler systems, originally due to the lack of fire hydrant availability in this area. However, water infrastructure has been upgraded in this area since that time. Fire hydrants can now be installed and are shown on the plat. So with that, our comments have been addressed. This plat's in good order. And be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners.
So Doug, that is the only change was made, that fire hydrants are gone? I mean, sprinklers are gone, and fire hydrants are installed?
Since there's, basically correct. Yeah, this was not a planned development. This was just a straight R15 under the old regulations. But again, now that the fact that they can support hydrants in this area, the mandatory sprinklers weren't required.
Okay, if that is the only change, I would make a motion to approve with the staff comments.
To approve. Second. Further comment? All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, it has been approved. Moving now to item 4, Richland Downs, Section 2, 24-2089, 69 lots, 66 are buildable on 23.47 acres, zone PUD, located along Richland-Richardson Road. Richland Downs, LLC, is the applicant. Mr. DeMasi.
Yes, sir, thank you. The preliminary plan for this development was approved by the Planning Commission back in May of 2021. Again, this is consistent with that plan. Most of our comments have been addressed. There's a couple of minor housekeeping items that still need to be updated. Nothing that we feel would necessitate any kind of a deferral for this application or anything. So with that, we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners.
Mr. Chair, how big are those lots?
The minimum lot size on these, I believe, if you look at the lot table, Mike's going to zoom in a little bit. Most of the area, they're at least the smallest ones are about 6,700. Most of them are bigger than that, but you can see the majority are in the 7,000 range or so. This was a planned development that was approved prior, obviously, to the preliminary plan being approved.
Commissioners.
Chair, seeing no questions, I'll make a motion to approve, subject to staff comments.
Motion to approve. Do we have a second? Have a second. Further comments?
I know this is already approved, or this has already been through the preliminaries and this is final. But this is one of those subdivisions that I think was an error on this road. If you're familiar with this road, it's curvy, it's small. I don't think the developers, they did a turn lane on one side, and I may be getting this confused.
There's a left turn lane coming in off of Richland-Richardson Road onto Richland Downs Drive, yes. There is one.
Right, okay. But this is one of those out in the county, small lots, where there's no schools, there's no roads. For that reason, I'll be voting against this.
Other comments? All those in favor, say aye. Those opposed? We'll call for a voice vote. I heard more than one against.
Jim Everwater. Yes. Jeff Phillips. Aye. Mike Cush. Yes. Lee Bogle. Yes. Charlotte P. No. Trey Gooch.
Yes.
Marvin Whitworth? Jim Thompson? Michael Shirley?
Yes.
Pettis Reed?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Motion does carry. Moving now into submit it for site plan approval. We only have one. Item 4, 7/11/24/30/15, construction of a 4,908 square foot general retail use, convenience, market, and gas station, and approximately 7,000 square feet of canopy space on approximately 12 acres zone EAC, located at the intersection of Epps Mill Road and Capitol Way. GBT Realty Corporation is the applicant. Mr. Mossy.
Yes, sir, thank you. The applicant's proposing, as you stated, to construct a gas station convenience market on this property. Fuel islands, as you look at the site plan, Mike's got it on the screen, have been included for both private passenger vehicles and over-the-road vehicles, or 18-wheelers. Information from the applicant indicates that this is not going to be a truck stop, as there won't be any provisions for shower facilities and other amenities for those truck drivers. This site is heavily impacted, as you can see on this map, or this plan page, I should say, that's on the screen right now, by the pending improvements to the Interstate 24 interchange at Epps Mill Road. You're welcome, Mike. Yeah, thank you. As well as other improvements to Epps Mill Road. Most of these impacts are in the form of required right-of-way, which you could see from that. Mike's brought up, this is a concept report by TDOT of the improvements that are coming. You can kind of see the, right there, Mike's highlighting, that's going to be the new off-ramp there on the 20, and an on-ramp right there at, I guess that's Miller Road, right there at that location. Signalized intersection, turn lanes, Capitol Way, you can see some turn lanes being added there into the site, into the, onto Capitol Way as well. So this has been a project we've been in discussions with the applicant for quite some time, just because of the impact with what's coming with these improvements. Not shown on here, but going further to the east, there's going to be other improvements to that bridge, and then also to the other side of Interstate 24 Epps Mill Road, all the way to Manchester Pike, where you can see they're kind of realigning the intersection right there to make it more of a, to make it a 90-degree. That's just really more for your information more than anything. There are still a few outstanding comments on this site plan. Most of our comments, we did have quite a few, but most of them have been addressed. Those that remain, at least from a planning standpoint, are pretty standard, just more housekeeping in nature kind of things. Mike, I'll turn it over to you for any kind of engineering issues you'd like to discuss.
No, you are correct, Douglas. There will be no entrance on Epps Mill Road, as TDOT would not allow it this close to the new traffic signals. So with the configuration, they'll have actually 3 entrances on Capitol Way, and I'll go back to the design. The convenience market itself and the front canopy will be for passenger cars only. The upper entrances will be for semi-tractor trailers to get fuel, and then come out this top entrance and then down. So no, like Doug said, no overnight accommodation, showers, things like that. And eventually you will see a final plat on this, or?
Yes, thank you, Mike. They actually had submitted, as part of this site plan package, it's easy for me to say, a subdivision. They called it a preliminary plan. However, it's still in the plan set, but we told the applicants and the design engineer that that needed to be a separate submittal. So although it's in there, even if you approve this, you're not approving any kind of a subdivision of property. That needs to be a separate submittal, and the applicant's aware of that.
And this will be on city sewer, so we'll have to go through all the city review as well.
Commissioners, questions, comments for staff, or other comments?
Mr. Chairman, I have, can you go to the concept plan with TDOT's improvements for that interchange, please?
Yes.
If Capitol Way continues to develop out, and there's more and more tractor trailer traffic going in and out of there, there's camper dealers back there, so I'm thinking of large trucks pulling a trailer, so it's something that could be 30 to 50 feet long, pulling out of there and making a left-hand turn to head towards the interstate. Is that intersection of Capitol Way and Epps Mill far enough away from the interchange that there could be another light put in there? Like one day, could there be 2 lights right there back to back?
It's possible. It is very close, so we would have to work with TDOT on this as well. Obviously, the warrant analysis would have to say that, yes, we do need a traffic signal here, but it is rather close. But as this area becomes more urbanized, you'll see traffic signals closer and closer together.
Well, I just know that a lot of people go fast right through there, and it's just more and more congestion right across from Dollar General. I just feel like there's going to be a lot of wrecks there, or potentially could be a lot more wrecks right there. So that's where I have my reservations about this right now. I know we have waited. You mentioned that you've talked to them about working with TDOT. Is this something that we could table or defer until we hear back from their meetings with TDOT?
Well, we have had meetings with TDOT on this, and they did not feel that a traffic signal was warranted at this time. This interchange and bridge improvement plan, improvements for Epps Mill, is on TDOT's 10-year plan, and they are scheduled for construction in 26. So it's not very long.
And I'll add to that, Mike, sorry to interrupt, but I'll just add to that the county's invested in this improvement as well, because we've placed, well, I forget the exact amount, but I think it was upwards of $5 to $6 million we've committed toward this project. So this is something that's going to happen. Like Mike said, it's just a matter of time. Obviously, if additional development starts occurring on Capitol Way, I think one of the benefits of that is the fact that since they have the sewer, they have access to the sewer, they'll have to go through the city processes as well, and their traffic control staff that they have as far as looking at that. Capitol Way is not really forecasted to go any further than it is, and now it's stubbed out to that property, but we haven't had any development interest in that property anytime recently, I know that. So at some point, if they were wanting the ability to tap onto the sewer and the city would let them, there'd be an opportunity for further analysis of that intersection.
With a gas station, is there an anticipated traffic count that they use? Like a gas station of this size generates this many car trips during the day versus if it was just another warehouse or repair shop or something like that down there?
They have a traffic count that they've submitted to us that they project with the full build out.
Commissioner?
Doug, are there, 3 to 4 lots left on Capitol Way, it looks like? I know it could develop further west of there, but...
I mean, right there on that same side, I mean, basically one. On the opposite side, you've got a couple. Now, that property that Mike's got the little hand on right there, number 2, and that property immediately to the west is something that we've actually met with the city on some potential development on. Now, the limiting issue out in this area is the sewer capacity. Yes, there is sanitary sewer out there. They're going to be relatively low users just because of the capacity issues they have. The developer that's looking at those 2 tracks across the street is actually wanting to split them kind of long ways as opposed to the way they are now. But the city has said, you can split the lots, but you're not getting any additional sewer beyond what we were already allocating on those tracks. So, that lot 2 there, you can kind of see it, Mike's kind of highlighting. I don't know if you can see the 2 on the screen there, but that one's going to be developed at some point, probably in the near future, and then you've still got a couple lots there. But again, I don't think you're going to get heavy sewer users at this point just from a capacity issue.
And is Capitol Way stubbed for
it
future
stubs to the
development?
west. Yes,
stubs to the west.
Yeah, you can kind of see it. Michael's is going to, yeah, there you go.
I share the same concerns as Commissioner Shirley, that being that close together, which I know there's probably a lot of conversation around that, but that development.
Right, and like I said, I think a lot of that's going to be dependent upon, obviously, if they want this access to the sewer, but, you know, like I said, the city's really been kind of reeling in some of the capacity out in this area.
Might be the controlling.
Right, that's going to be the controlling
Okay.
factor as far
Okay.
as any real heavy, large-scale development. Plus the floodplain, as Mike just pulled up, that'll be an issue too.
Other comments, questions? Motion?
Mike, I've got a question, a concern, which leads to this question. If you can go back to the TDOT deal. You mentioned, I think you said that TDOT plans to be under construction in 2026?
That's what's on the 10-year TDOT plan.
And when was the last time you've had an update on this particular project from TDOT?
This was from earlier this year. I think the date on this one is, trying to find it.
But earlier this year?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I guess my concern is the congestion, which Commissioner Shirley and Commissioner Bogle have already highlighted. I'm wondering if the TDOT expansion was not going to happen until 5 years down the road, would this be something that we would approve or we would want to wait on? Because my concern is TDOT Commissioner Ely is pleading with Governor Lee now for more funding and trying to get that funding from the general fund. So I'm not so sure that a lot of these projects that are on the 10-year plan, because of some of the problems in East Tennessee, and a lot of the funds are going to be diverted to repairs on East Tennessee, that some of these projects that are dear to us may not get delayed. That's a speculation. That is not fact. But I do know that TDOT is hurting for some income because all of their money is based on the gas tax, and that is sorely not enough money to pay for the roads. So my concern is if we were to approve this and those TDOT developments don't happen for 5 years, let's say, is that something we could live with? Is that something this planning commission could live with?
Right. I had the same question that I asked to our local TDOT representative, and he said that they have really limited the scope of the number of projects that they have on their 10-year plan. They used to throw everything in there. Now they're just putting projects that they can actually fund. But, with the hurricane damage and the damage to the interstates on the East Tennessee, I don't know. But, like Doug said, we've already committed and I think paid a big hunk of $6 million to TDOT for this project, for the county's portion, which is improvements on Epps Mill Road. So, they're working on this project, assuming that the right-of-way will be obtained by TDOT, the configuration, the new alignments will happen, and all of their entrances on Capitol Way. Could it work without it? Yes, it could, but it would be better if there were TDOT improvements along with it.
So bottom line, if capital IF, if the TDOT project were delayed a year or two, this would not, in your mind, totally kill the deal, or it would just make it uncomfortable for motorists for a little while, but it wouldn't be such a congested cluster that
Right.
we would need to rethink the approval.
Right. So right now, let me go back to, let's see, off a few of these layers, turn some back on. There is a decel right turn lane right now on Epps Mill into Capitol Way. And if my computer will work and let me get there. So there is a turn lane here, and there is a turn lane for the Dollar General here, but not a turn lane for people heading east to turn left into Capitol Way. So that, having those improvements, added turn lanes that TDOT's planning on making, the extended right turn lane, that would help traffic come in and out. And then also, even though this traffic signal is not at Capitol Way, it will help block traffic and allow Capitol Way traffic to get in and out when that, when the cycles to stop the traffic on Epps Mill.
Commissioner?
It looks like the biggest detriment, if the interchange is delayed, would be the lack of turn lanes, turning radius for trucks and the turn lanes to give them plenty of room. But the current ramp is further away than the proposed ramp.
Right.
So that would work in the interim, I think.
Yeah, you can see this hatched areas. These are pavements that's to be removed. Epps Mill right now is farther down to the south, and it's going to be shifted up to the north a little bit.
I think the biggest concern for me, and I know we probably don't have an ability to do this, but the trucks entering and exiting for fueling, if that could be almost a second phase to this because of the lack of roadway geometry, that I don't know if we've ever done anything like that or if we even have the ability to do that, but that would be the biggest concern of it staying under its current configuration. But
I will say the applicant is present, so I mean we might if
just as a timing issue, but I know they got business models and everything they have to go by. So
like I said, I mean this is not, yes, they've got the fueling. I'm not sure. I mean we approved this as one large development as opposed to phasing it, but they might be able to speak a little more to the phasing of things.
Or make a commitment to provide some turn lanes, at least in the interim, or improve the radii to be able to make those turns for those trucks, those truck turning templates, if we have a model that, if in case the interchange is delayed, that at least those can get in and out without major conflict and major cost to the developer. As far as it needs to function, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yes, sir. Right. And they are proposing, currently the Capitol Way pavement section is 33 feet wide, so they are going to overlay and stripe Capitol Way to define 3 lanes, 1 lane in, 2 lanes coming out with this project. And here are some of the truck turning templates. The larger semis, like I said, we'll use the middle entrance to come in, get fuel, and then circle back around and come out.
I think as long as we run some models on Epps Mill as far as the ingress, egress, to just say at least we looked at it and it will function, even with them doing the improvements on Capitol Way.
Yes.
Commissioner Shirley?
I appreciate that left turn lanes off of Epps Mill into this development would certainly help. My fear in looking at this project is the proximity of Capitol Way intersection with Epps Mill and the proposed improvement in intersection with Miller and the off-ramp for the interstate. When I look, if you can go back to that TDOT one again for me. When I look at this right here, my mind instantly goes to Cason Lane in Murfreesboro. And I think that having those 2 intersections on what will be an improved and I think continued improved road is very troubling to me. Thinking about tractor trailers or somebody like myself with hauling a tractor on a trailer down the road, that making a left-hand turn, even with the future light stopping traffic coming from my left, I think about the tractor trailers exiting on Church Street and blocking all of traffic as they try to turn left into the pilot station there. So a tractor trailer or someone that has gotten impatient with waiting to turn left off of Capitol Way is just going to pull on out there and block the intersection. And I cannot, if there was a red light there, I would be fine with it. If there was only turning right off of Capitol Way, I would be fine with it. But making left-hand turns off of Capitol Way onto Epps Mill, with or without the TDOT improvements, is still very troubling to me, because I can tell you that this is not an attractive interstate exit for tractor trailers leaving Murfreesboro and heading to Chattanooga because of the traffic congestion there. When they improve this, we're going to see more tractor trailer traffic here. And I think 15 years down the road, we're going to regret putting more traffic. We're going to have problems with these two intersections being close together. So I don't know what I guess my question as the newbie on here is that this is commercially zoned property, correct? So is there any, besides just having the ick, as my kids would say, about this, is there any reason to be able to, like, my motion would be to deny this application because of the concerns that I have for traffic. Is that okay?
Well, I think the issue that we're looking at here really, as Commissioner Bogle, I think, said, he wants it to function. I think that's the biggest thing. It's what he's asking for is a use by right. So, I don't think we can necessarily deny it because of the use. Now, if there are other improvements and things that need to be considered, and especially in absence of the improvements of TDOT, perhaps it's better to look at the possibility of a deferral, to look into that a little bit more, as opposed to a denial. There are existing truck stops in this area. There's one on the other side of the interstate. There's one across the street from this. This is obviously not a truck stop. A lot of your trucks that are going to be coming are going to be going to that existing one, regardless of whether or not there's improvements, if this is approved or not. Yes, there are some fueling abilities at this new one that's being proposed, but they're not looking at any kind of it's not like the one across the street that is a truck stop, a full-blown truck stop. This is not meant to be like that. So I understand the concerns, but I think rather than recommend a denial on this, I think if there are concerns regarding the traffic and looking a little more closely at that intersection, what improvements may be necessary in the event these improvements don't happen from TDOT, maybe a little more attention should be paid on that as opposed to just denying the plan outright.
And we do have the applicant here and his engineer, if you want to discuss more with them.
Commissioner Phillips.
Chairman, Doug, Mike, this site plan, the drawings on this site plan, do they all include all of the improvements that's coming?
They are making provisions, especially for the right-of-way the quick answer to your question is yes. Now, obviously, they're only showing the portions that are really going to be affecting them, but most of what's affecting them is the right-of-way being dedicated for the project as opposed to any actual traffic improvements.
But this site plan that we're looking at shows the improvements that are not there right now. They're showing the TDOT improvements that we think may be coming in 26?
Well, as you can see on this plan Mike's got up here, they're showing the right-of-way. The plans don't go any further than what we're seeing here. Now, I think the plans were designed with those improvements in mind, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, well, that's my question, is if they're showing those improvements, which would probably take care of some of the traffic issues maybe, why would we approve this without a restriction that this thing didn't happen until those improvements are in place? I'm just concerned that we're approving this, as some has shown that concern, prematurely, adding to what is already a congested area. If they're wanting to build this with the TDOT improvements that's supposedly coming, and I've been around long enough to know that sometimes those things don't happen. Even though they've committed to doing it, it may not happen. But if they're showing site plan with all of the TDOT improvements that's coming in 2026, why would we approve this premature to those improvements happening? That's a concern that I've got. So someone needs to address that to my satisfaction, I guess.
I would be inclined, if it's possible, to defer this to let the applicant see if they can find a transitional or a interim solution that would allow this, like I said before, to function properly until that interchange is built in. Not having them build out the entire improvements, but make strategic improvements in the interim to be able to move forward with this, that we feel comfortable that it will function in a way that it should. And then knowing that the highest level of service function would be with the TDOT project and associated with that. And I'm looking at the right-of-way dedication. I don't even know how that would work if you were allowed to put something temporary over there when it's probably in transition.
Well, yeah, and I think that's going to be one of the big challenges is what is TDOT going to allow in an area from an improvement standpoint. Right. TDOT could come back and say, well, this is going to be in our right-of-way. We don't want this here. And that's going to be a challenge.
Yeah.
I'm noticing that the applicant seems like he's wanting to get up here very bad, and I'm going to allow him to come forward this time. Let you right here and answer some of these questions.
Hi, John Miner with SCC. Predating most of us here, this was planned for a commercial area as part of the community. So the intersection was originally planned for commercial traffic, whether it be from our gas station or from other commercial uses. As far as planning and coordinating with TDOT and the existing road conditions, so what we are proposing and showing is the connection to the existing situation with the improvement of striping Capitol Way to define a in and out and a dedicated left. But that was originally thought of as being appropriate for the commercial area. And then as far as kind of TDOT goes, that is subjective to TDOT on what they ultimately do need. We have been coordinating and providing what they've asked for, and what is shown in the hatched area is areas that we're going to stay out of entirely. We will not be able to utilize because it will either be part of Epps Mill or part of the interchange exit. So we'll have to stay out of those areas entirely. We did, to the best of our knowledge, plan around all of those improvements so that when all those areas are improved, we're still meeting the correct setback requirements, the correct landscaping requirements by staying like 8 feet off of the proposed future right-of-way acquisitions. And as far as traffic coming from the westbound, since this is a gas station at the interstate, I think we would predict that the majority of traffic would be from the east direction as opposed to the west. So I don't think that a left turn into Capitol Way would necessarily be warranted with our site plan. The left turn out of Capitol Way, while that was planned for a commercial area, I think that our truck use will be consistent with what the overall plan was originally, and we will be the farther distance until the signalization is installed. Once the signalization is installed, the intersections will be a lot closer together. But as Mike pointed out, the signal will allow for a gap for left out of Capital Way from our site. I talked enough. Do y'all have questions for me that I can help?
Yeah, I got a question on the traffic study. So we've already predicted a traffic count.
Mm-hmm.
What was that count?
I don't know offhand. I'd have to look at the report.
I've got to concur with what I've heard, being I'm a driver that drives a 40-foot RV and going in and out across the state and other states. If I pull out of what that RV site is at the end of the road out there, I've come out of there in a pickup truck, and sometimes it's pretty dangerous just with a pickup truck out of that site. So I'm interested in the count. If the county's got a new company we've contracted with to do a traffic study based on your count. But for me to pull a 40-foot rig out going left to get back on the interstate with multiple vehicles, all I can see right now is Highway 99 at Sitco in the morning at 7 o'clock now that we've got all these contractors that have moved farther out into the county because they can park their equipment. There's nowhere to get. Sometimes they're parked on the side of Highway 99 waiting on their turn. I know enough about truck drivers that they will do the same thing. Once they're in there, where are they going to go to get out, to start moving? So I see this as a disaster right now. It's the right place for it with the right signaling and all, but I'm telling you, we're setting ourselves up for some deaths out there coming out of that place. So I'd like to know the vehicle count, type of vehicles you're going to have in and out of there. And if we've done a traffic study, who did it and when did they do it? I got a call the other day, said the state's doing a traffic study out my way. They're doing it at 9 o'clock in the morning. They wasn't there at 7, 8 o'clock when the heavy traffic was there. I'd be interested in knowing when they did the traffic study, when they give me these numbers. So, being a guy that's had to fool with a lot of accounting over the years, I can make numbers look pretty well any way you want to at a certain time. Really concerned. This one here is concerned right now. It is not ready to take on this kind of traffic, I can tell you.
One thing I will point out is at the intersection of Epps Mill and Capitol, it was designed with the larger radius for tractor trailers, since this was a planned commercial area. Yeah, not that one. That one.
I did want to add one other thing that Commissioner Mike brought up. I talked to a state rep over the weekend, and he knows my number one concern is traffic and improvements, infrastructure. He was pretty clear we could almost count on monies that's available going to East Tennessee due to the hurricane. So I think what we had anticipated is not going to happen on a timely basis as to what was projected prior to the hurricane damage.
Yeah, as far as TDOT goes, I think most of us are aware that it's their optimistic, educated guess on when things will be constructed. And with East Tennessee's reconstruction, that will most likely cause a delay. However, since there is Rutherford County funding involved with it, and it is still part of their 10-year plan, it will just be a matter of timing, whether it's 2026, 2027, 2028. As far as our site goes, we're approaching the end of 2024. By the time our site's constructed, open, you're looking at the end of 2025. So we're approaching kind of the early optimistic side, but certainly within a year or two, it wouldn't be unrealistic to expect construction.
And this is one phase, is that correct?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I don't have the expertise as Commissioner Shirley being on the road board or Commissioner Bogle being on working with TDOT, but it sounds to me that we're trying to open a gas station that may be needed in an area, but the issue is we don't know when TDOT will complete their improvements, and we can't we don't want to wait on that. But we have to plan for the future. Without that expertise, knowledge, it sounds like a light would solve the problem in turning left. And how difficult would it be to get a light there with the completion of this to help the trucks go in and out?
Well, is that a question for us, or was that just more of a statement? Okay. Okay.
I think she's making a statement there, and I think if we've seen the problems we've had getting a light in a lot of places, that becomes quite a challenge as well. Are we through questions for the applicant? Let him go ahead and sit back down, and we'll go further into this discussion right here. You have another one for the applicant, or? Okay. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Reed, Mr. Chairman, excuse me, right here.
Yes, sir.
This is not a question for the applicant, but I know I'm old and senile, but there are a number of places in Rutherford County that sell gas that I am not going to go to. If I'm out away from home, I might get stuck in one that I didn't know about. But this looks to me like a place that I'm just not going to fool with. I'll go get my gas somewhere else because it's too hard to get in and out of, with or without a light. Case in point is Case and Lane over there, and those two lights that never work together. They'll have one turn green, and the one in front of it at Old Fort is red, and you still can't move. And then by the time the one on Old Fort turns, the one on Case, but anyway, that's a different story. I avoid situations like that. I don't have time to fool with it anymore.
Shirley.
Mr. Chairman, I move to defer this application until such time that the applicant and staff can get together and address some of the concerns that we brought up related to traffic.
Motion to defer. Have a second.
Could I add to that, Mr. Chairman? I don't know whether I need to add offer an amendment to that. I'd like to see an updated traffic study, and then a verification of that traffic study by that third-party company that we're looking at approving to do that. I would like to, if I need to make that as amendment, or could you add that to your motion?
I would accept that as a friendly amendment. No.
Okay. Further discussion? Good. Right back here. All right, we'll have a voice vote on that. So, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Jim Averwater. Yes. Jeff Phillips. Aye. Mike Cush. Yes. Lee Bogle. Yes. Charlotte P. Yes. Trey Gooch.
Yes.
Marvin Whitworth. Yes. Jim Thompson. Yes. Michael Shirley.
Yes.
Pettis Reed.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Motion does carry to defer. Next item, staff reports and other business. Mr. DeMasi.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Just a couple things. First, I sent out an email last week to the Planning Commission regarding an upcoming training opportunity. This is specifically for Board of Zoning Appeal and Planning Commission training. This is something that our state planning chapter, our section, puts on pretty much yearly, has for the last few years. It's going to be on the 22nd of this month, which will be not this Friday, but the following. It's an online training, so you wouldn't have to leave the comfort of your own home if you wanted to attend that. Several of you did attend the CUD training, and again, thanks to CUD for helping us put that on. So it's not required, but there's a lot of good topics here, it looks like, so if you're interested, I just wanted to make sure to point that out, especially for the ones who weren't able to go. The other, just real quick, we did have our town hall event for Plan Rutherford at the, just a couple weeks ago, over at the Lane Agri Park. It was actually on, they were early voting at the time, I remember, so it was interesting, but everything seemed to work fine. I thought we had a real good turnout, lots of good discussion. You know, at this point, there is a draft. It's available on the Plan Rutherford website. Obviously, if there's questions any of you have, or if you know anybody that has questions, I know there's been some distribution of material gone out that may not be as accurate as we would like, but feel free to let me know if anybody of you all have any questions. We'll be looking to start the public hearing process after the first of the year for Planning Commission and Board of Commissioners. So that was really much all I had, Mr. Chairman, if you had anything further.
I don't. Our next meeting will be December the 9th here in the courthouse. It'll be a 6 o'clock meeting, what we have right now. And I hope everybody has you have something back here?
Yeah, Doug, on your continuing education thing, will you get some kind of verification who logs in so you can?
I can probably, it's not being sponsored by us, so I would have to find out from the folks in our section as to who applied or who registered and who didn't. So, but if you tell me you did, I'm going to take your word for it. So.
I plan on attending.
Very good. I'll mark you down.
Mike, there is an email that explains all the topics.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I won't get I don't get notification if you do sign up. You'll have to let me know.
Okay. Good question. All right. Just a reminder of the meeting that's on December the 9th. No, there will not be another meeting this month. Right here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last Wednesday at our Public Works Committee meeting, the County Commission Public Works Committee meeting, it was presented a zoning ordinance amendment regarding third-party traffic studies. You just mentioned that a minute ago. There were several members of that committee that raised questions, in my mind, that was kind of outside of what that ordinance or updated ordinance, amended ordinance was trying to accomplish. Those questions related to if the third party comes back and, like turn lanes as an example, and said that turn lanes weren't warranted, can the county commission, through our planning commission, still require that turning lane? That's the question. I ended up trying to cut that conversation off by saying yes, the county commission could still do that. Don't know that it would be to the point where it wouldn't bring some kind of legal action, but that question is coming up this Thursday night at the full commission meeting. It will come up, and someone will need to be there to answer that question. It has nothing to do with the ordinance that we're trying to accomplish, but it created at least 2 no votes the other night at Public Works, and I don't want the commission to get into some long debate over what the planning commission and the county commission can and can't do. So I'd like someone to be there to be able to answer that question just point blank. Nick would be the perfect person to do that. I just need someone, we just need someone to be there to answer that question.
Yeah. And I wasn't able to attend that meeting because I was out of town at a conference. But to your point, Commissioner Phillips, you're absolutely right. The only intent of this amendment that we're bringing forward to the commissioners this week, and this is a preview of what I'll say if I'm asked this question on Thursday. The only purpose of this is to place some amendments into our codes that allow for the third-party review, for us to require the third-party review. Our traffic study requirements are something that we know need to be looked at. They need to be updated. The purpose of this amendment is not to do that. And I think we've had that discussion, I know here, and we can have that discussion on Thursday as well, that's for a future time. This isn't taking any power out of the Planning Commission's hands. Most of the turn lane discussions that we're going to see are going to be here at the Planning Commission. When it comes to most of our rezonings, you really can't condition a rezoning, especially a conventional zone, on a turn lane because we're not allowed to put conditions on it. Maybe if it's a planned development, but we don't see many of those right now. So I think it's good to say that, yes, this is something we know needs to be looked at further. We want to work with our traffic consultant to possibly make further amendments to our ordinance after kind of doing a top-bottom review of what's already on the books. But the only purpose of what's coming up on Thursday is to allow us to require a third-party review for developments that are coming in. That way, the cost is borne by them and not by us.
The bottom line is that it changes nothing as to what we're doing right now.
Correct.
If the Planning Commission can say no or say yes, that we want a turn lane, even though some traffic study did not warrant it, adding this third party does not change that.
That's correct.
That's what needs to be said at the full commission meeting Thursday night.
Sir.
Nick, can you comment on that Thursday night?
Let me get with Doug, and happy to. I've got a couple questions for Doug.
Okay.
Thanks.
Anything else? Going once, going twice. Wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving.